Yo, 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 it's Goosey checking in to give you some thoughts, some insights to my brain on what happened last night and the storylines to come from UFC 282. Well, one storyline in particular, and that is going to be Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill, are going to be fighting for the light heavyweight strap in the main event of UFC 283. That's a twist that I did not see coming going into that last night. I didn't even think that was an option. But like any great story, we're going to start at the beginning. The beginning, UFC 282. It was a great card. All right. A lot of finishes, a lot of great fights, a lot of action. And then we get to the final two fights. The judges did what they tend to do, and they made the night all about themselves. A few interesting decisions. The most interesting one going to be Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon, but I'll save that breakdown for another day. I'm going to go into the main event here. And the main event was a weird fight. It was a wild fight, especially for the first three rounds. And that's where a lot of the controversy comes from because they were highly competitive. It was a coin flip. It was a 50-50 rounds 1 and 3. And in those coin flips, the judges tend to go with the one that does the most damage. The Polish Power in this case did the most damage. And we saw that on two of the judges' scorecards. They gave him rounds 1 through 3. We saw him eating the legs up, getting some cuts on the eyes of Ankalaev. After the third round, Jan ran out of gas. He was training for a 3-rounder until 2 weeks ago when Yuri got hurt. And we saw Ankalaev start to take over, especially with the grappling, and dole some damage out in the final round, arguably getting a 10-8. We saw that on two of the judges' scorecards. And that's where we get the wild judging because all three judges saw the fights different ways. One saw Jan winning, one saw Ankalaev winning, and one saw a draw. And I mean, none of them are that wrong. I can see past where all three are right. I can see past where all three are wrong, definitely. But I think that UFC fans would be more accepting of this outcome had it not been a very controversial decision the fight before as well. And all that tension just kind of added up to fans leaving with a salty taste in their mouth. Another person that had a salty taste in their mouth, definitely Dana White. And we saw that at the post-fight press conference because if you're having two guys fight for the belt and they draw, nobody gets the belt. And each division's got to have a champ in the UFC. Dana White was in crisis mode at the press conference last night, and you could see that. You could feel that. And what came out of that is a headliner for UFC 283, and that's going to be Glover Teixeira and Jamahal Hill. Breaking down the thought process, there's a lot of guys hurt at the top of the light heavyweight division right now. You know, Glover was definitely a strong candidate to get that main event in UFC Brazil next month. But there's no one that really makes sense to fight on the other side, fight against him. I think Jamahal Hill might be the best candidate for the job because, like I said, there's a lot of injuries at the top of light heavyweight. The two best candidates were going to be Anthony Smith and Jamahal Hill. And Anthony Smith, we've seen that fight with Glover. It didn't go well for him. Glover dominated, knocked some teeth out, and left fans feeling pretty bad after the brutal beating they watched after. So Dana White makes the executive decision, and now we got Jamahal Hill fighting for a belt. Maybe it could have been Ankalaev. They might have pushed it back, but he comes on the mic after his fight and says, I don't know if I'm fighting for the UFC anymore. Very upset about the decision. And that's not what you want to hear from a guy who could be the best fighter in the world at 205 pounds. On the other end, Jan definitely didn't do himself any favors either. You know, it was a close fight, back and forth fight. There's definitely an argument for him winning 3 rounds, but he got on the mic and said, I don't feel like I won this fight. Maybe I didn't lose, but I definitely didn't win. And If you're the UFC, you're trying to find the most macho man in the world at each weight class. That doesn't help Jan's case at all. And I think that it definitely frustrated Dana, and it led to a rushed decision, but it might not be the worst decision because switching gears, we're going to take a look at UFC 283. Card's kind of a banger now, you know. So we got up top Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill. Good main event. Co-main, elite. We got a quadrilogy. Brendan Moreno, Davison Figueiredo. Going down the card, we got Gilbert Burns, Neil Magny. Give me that. Paul Craig, Johnny Walker. Madness. Who knows what's going to happen? Brad Tavares versus RoboCop. Pretty solid. Tiago Moises, Garam Kutaladze. Someone's going down. And then the Bonfim twins or brothers. We saw them fight on the Contender Series. Very elite Brazilian snipers. And one of them matched up against Terrence McKinney. So January 21, 2023, going to be a good night for UFC fans. We got UFC Brazil, UFC 283. And now I'm going to give you my early thoughts on the main event. Early thought, I think Jamahal Hill knocks him out. I'm going to guess round 2. Either way, I think this fight doesn't make it past the third. Stylistically, one of these guys is going to be getting the better end of these exchanges, and one of them is going to end up dominating this fight because if it's on the feet, Jamahal Hill, more explosive, better hands, 12 years age advantage. I think if it's stuck there, he's going to find the chin. He's going to get it done. Glover's going to walk into that cage at 43 years old. Jamahal Hill is a prime 31. We've seen Glover have great moments, but I think we've seen his best moments. Jamahal Hill, on the other hand, he hasn't proven as much, but he shows flashes of greatness, and he's improving fight in and fight out. We always see a new and better version of Jamahal Hill step into that cage. That's due to a few things. One, he is just getting into his prime at 31, but 2, he started MMA late. He was a basketball player before. He's 6'4". He's definitely got the frame for it. And now he's taking that athleticism and he's throwing hands in the octagon. I think Glover's definitely going to have a grappling advantage in this one, but we saw Hill be able to be effective in the grappling against Thiago Santos. Thiago got him down 6 times, but he also shot 20 takedowns. So the percentage there is still pretty good for Jamahal Hill. He was able to get back up to his feet without taking too much damage. The difference is going to be Glover has a more well-rounded grappling game. Thiago Santos is pretty much just going to be able to ground and pound versus Glover. He's going to be looking to get into powerful top positions, rain that ground and pound, and then use that to get submissions. That's going to be the tough test for Jamahal Hill, is if he's veteran savvy enough to survive those situations, get back to the feet, and then put it on Glover. But he could also, he's got that stocky frame. He might be able to stuff the takedowns, keep Glover in the middle of the octagon and keep him standing and banging. And if that's the case, I definitely think Hill gets it done. But there are paths for both to get it done with a quickness. And we got a banger on our hands. You know, it definitely wasn't the fight that we were expecting, but I'm not complaining about it because I think it gets the year started with some fire. A lot of times those January pay-per-views are lacking. I think this year, because they put it in Brazil, a lot of the Brazilian fighters wanted to step up and represent on home turf. And we are going to get a very entertaining night of fights because of it. But yeah, there was a lot of wildness these last 24 hours, a lot of storyline changes. Comment below. Let me know what you guys want to hear, what you guys think about Jamahal Hill versus Glover Teixeira and all that good stuff. Hit that like, leave a comment, hit the subscribe. That's my take. I'm Goosey, and I'm checking out.